Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, Maverick family. Great to have everybody here. Pierre Poilievre promising a stronger voice for Western Canada as he seeks a seat in Parliament through a by-election out in Alberta. Plandemic 2.0 didn't happen. We'll tell you about that tonight. And the Texas floods, we'll bring you up to date there as well. So stay with me. I'll be right back right after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Okay, so first up tonight, catastrophic flash flooding has claimed more than 80 lives across Texas, with Kirk County reporting the highest toll at 68 deaths, including 28 children. The floods triggered by torrential rains July 4th caused the Guadalupe River to surge up to 26 feet in just 45 minutes, devastating communities and summer camps in the Texas Hill Country. This is a story that we should have been paying more attention to, frankly, over the past couple of days, but we've been covering other Canadian news, as I'm sure you're aware, regular viewers. Rescue efforts continue around the clock in Texas as teams search for at least 41 people still missing statewide, including 10 girls and one counselor from Camp Mystic, a Christian summer camp along the Guadalupe River. Governor Greg Abbott has vowed that responders will not stop until every missing person is found. With the Texas National Guard, U.S. Coast Guard, and drones assisting in the effort, and operators of private drones tonight being urged not to fly them, with emergency officials saying that privately operated drones are actually presenting a hazard. President Trump has signed a federal disaster declaration ensuring resources for first responders. Even so, the Trump administration tonight coming under fire, criticism, not unexpectedly, from political opponents who are framing the response as inadequate, pointing to redistribution of resources previous to this, targeting politicians like Kristi Noem, who has spoken about reallocating FEMA funding to other areas, funding which critics say should have really been directed here instead. We're going to take you to this news conference in Texas. One moment while we get this requeued. Here we are. This is from Fox 26 Houston. Bring you up to date with this. And here we go.
Once again, Larry Letha, Kirk County Sheriff. Again, thank you all for covering this and helping us get the message out. I'll start first.
This is not live. This was earlier
in the day. City manager will go next and give you some information, and then we'll finish with our Kerrville mayor. Okay, what I'm here to do, like I said, is give you all the most current updated information. Please bear in mind these numbers will continue to change. As I'm walking in the door, I'm getting texts. It's going to be like yesterday. I think these numbers are going to continue to change and increase as time goes on. But like I said, we'll do a good job on keeping you updated. Search and rescue operations continue with a full response from local, state, and national first responders. At present, there's over 400 first responders for more than 20 agencies that are working in Kerr County. We have more than a dozen canine working in and near the river. More than 100 air, water, and ground vehicles are in the field right now working on this search and rescue. As of 9 a.m. this morning, we've recorded 59 deceased in Kerr County. Among those who are deceased, we have 38 adults and 21 children. 18 adults pending identification, and 4 children are also pending identification. At present, there are 11 Camp Mystic campers unaccounted for, along with 1 counselor. We extend our sincerest condolences and prayers for every single family affected by this tragedy. And we continue to work around the clock and reunite these families. We will continue to our search efforts until everybody is found. Our missing person call center is open, and those reporting missing loved ones can call the number 830-258-1111. I'll repeat one more time, 830-258-1111. Please follow the Kerr County Sheriff's Office and City of Kerrville Facebook for your latest information. At this time, I'll turn it over to our City Manager, Dalton Rice.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you all for being here today. Everyone in the community is hurting, and we know many of you are locals or have some local connections here, so please keep everybody in your thoughts as we continue to navigate this very challenging time for our community. Search operations continue. Starting about 0600 this morning, we started putting boots on the ground. We have increased our number of personnel that are navigating the really challenging shores along the bank line, but we are continuing to make progress from west to east as we continue operations. What we really need from y'all is to really help us get the word out. We know that people want to volunteer, but what we're starting to see is personal drones that are flying. With these personal drones that are flying, that is a danger to aircraft, which risks then further operations. So if you could, please pass the communication along that we need to keep these personal drones out of the sky. We have drones and assets flying. We want to continue to do that. For volunteers and donations, we do have a phone number, 830-465-4794. We can give you that number after, but if you want to volunteer, if you have donations, please contact that number and they will help get everything out. We have families who need to be reunited, and we are continuously making effort to make sure that our families are reunited. We want to continue to work together with our community. We appreciate everybody here, and we want to make sure that we stay Kerr united. I'm going to let the mayor wants to say a few words, and then I will take a couple questions after the mayor.
Again, thank you for being here. You know, I'm old enough to remember Fred Rogers, and he one time said, during a crisis, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. In Kerrville, those helpers are the city staff, county personnel, state agencies, and federal agencies. The entire Kerrville City Council is on site today. We're doing everything we can. Let me repeat something I said yesterday. In our Emergency Operations Center, it's not a bunch of different teams. It's one team. Our goal is to rescue those in peril and find those who are lost. If you are interested in donating to help those families who've been affected, you can visit the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country. They've set up a portal for donations, and I understand our community, our state, and the world have been responding. Thank you. Kerrville's branch of the Salvation Army has been designated as our official partner for volunteer coordination and in-kind donations. They can be reached at a number very similar to what you just heard, 830-465-4797. Also, we have a website for volunteers to register, a different website. It's tcr.communityos.org. It's important to follow the City of Kerrville's Facebook page for updates. If you follow social media and are interested in such things, I may be too old to tell you this, but there is a hashtag. It's hashtag Kerr United. That's what we are. We're united to help those who are grieving and to find those who are lost. And now we'll open up to questions. I cannot answer operational questions, but I'm going to ask the city manager to come back up.
I'm not sure who can answer this, but we just talked with business owners who are very concerned not only for themselves but also for employees about how are they going to pay their mortgage, how are they going to pay their electricity. They've been having people reach out to them about their bills, and they're terrified that in the middle of all this they're going to get cut off or evicted.
We are working through everything right now. Currently our biggest focus is to making sure that we get families reunited with their loved ones. And so we are not going to stop until we are able to get those families reunited.
Mr. Rice,
Listen.
Question for both you and the sheriff. There appears to be a massive operation now in Center Point. Is that where we're seeing bodies recovered at this moment?
We are seeing bodies recovered all over, up and down. So as we make our way east to west, we have the entire pretty much span of operations. We broke it down into grids so we can recover those bodies. So yes, it is a full operation.
None as of this morning,
Yeah. One more question.
Yeah, well, one of the questions that still hasn't been answered 3 days into this is despite TEM's warning on July 2nd and July 3rd that something like this could have happened, that the threat existed, why that information didn't get down to the camps and why they weren't evacuated. Can you answer that now?
That is a great question, but again, we want to make sure that we continue to focus. We still have 11 missing children that we want to get reunited with our families. Until we can get reunited with their families, we are not going to stop. We are not going to stop until we do. So, thank you.
Just a quick follow-up question, sir. Was any emergency alert given out on the 4th that morning of? Did anyone get
Sir,
any
there are
alert?
families who deserve better than that.
This brilliant device keeps your home cool in summer.
Okay, so let me take a little break. We're going to come back, comment a little bit more on that, and dig into Pierre Poilievre. One moment. Stay with me.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so let's just recap. We have flash flooding, catastrophic flooding that went through central Texas Friday, causing a surge of 20 to 26 feet on the Guadalupe River near Kerrville, leading to widespread damage. It washed out roads. Death toll now sitting. I have two different reports from credible sources. I don't know whether it's 79 or 80 at this point, at least 79 across 6 counties. And Kerr County officials are reporting 68 deaths, those of 40 adults and 28 children. And officials say they still have 11 children missing from Camp Mystic. The National Weather Service has extended the flood watch over much of south central Texas, as several inches of rain are expected for the region today. And we do have a major disaster declaration, with President Trump signing a major disaster declaration order for Kerr County. The declaration allows first responders to have access to the resources they need as they continue to work on search and recovery efforts. Let's just do a Twitter scroll here, get you some video, and just a sample of what's going on social media. Okay. There we are. Starting with this. It's river shot. Amazing amount of force and power. 30 minutes in. Look how much time is back. 3 minutes after running Camp Maverick. And now 30 minutes in as it catches up here for us. All the way up to bridge. And that breach hatching. And probably wise to get off that bridge. Warehouse, look at this.
There's a cat in there. There's a cat. This is a video by Scrib Nibbit on YouTube. Live Keeper. Be Great Texas 45. Okay. Devastating. And as we scroll down, bring this back up on screen. This is the National Weather Service coming under.
The original forecast that we received on Wednesday from the National Weather Service predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain in the Concho Valley and 4 to 8 inches of rain in the Hill Country. We worked with our own meteorologists to fine-tune that weather statement, and as many of you know, and many of you in broadcast journalism and meteorology, you can go back and look at your own forecast, and the amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts.
This rain event sat on top of that and dumped more rain than what was forecasted on both of those forks. When we got the report, it was about 7 feet or so on the South Fork, and within a matter of minutes it was up to 29 feet, and all of that converged at the Guadalupe, and that's where we saw those very quick rise in flood.
But listen, everybody got the forecast from the National Weather Service, right? You all got it. You're all in media. You got that forecast. It did not predict the amount of rain that we saw. The original forecast that we received on...
Somebody's got some explaining to do. This is Blair and Brook Harbor. Blair was 13, Brook 11. Both went missing during the flooding, and their father I guess, has confirmed that they've been found deceased. And more criticism leveled at the Trump administration.
So let me get this straight. Dump cuts over 600 employees from the National Weather Service and then has the audacity to blame the Democrats for the flooding in Texas. Give me a break, bro. You are the only one to blame. And Elon Musk is also to blame for this. 27 people are dead, with dozens of girls missing from a camp because they could not get out the warning in time. There are repercussions to cutting employees from services, such as the National Weather Service. They did this. Do not let them tell you anything else. The Republicans are to blame. Period. Point blank. Done.
This is Julian Ryan, 27 years old. This post indicates he died saving his mother, fiance, and 2 children from the floods. And there again, devastation. This from WSB TV. Says Texas floods leave at least 51 dead, much higher than that now, and girls missing as rescuers search devastated landscape. It says, let this flood serve as a reminder why you don't cut funding for vital agencies and programs to give bigger tax cuts to the rich. More video. This is a video of a girl coming from that camp. Man.
Just broke. Because if you care about the Texas floods, you need to hear the news that the New York Times just broke. Because we learned yesterday that the National Weather Service's forecasts were not to blame. No weather balloon launches were missed. Forecasts did predict heavy rain, and notifications of flooding were given hours in advance. The issue was that the warnings went out in the middle of the night. Someone has to get the information and act on it. Someone with a job title of, I don't know, how about a warning coordination meteorologist, which is the name of one of the empty positions in the National Weather Service's San Antonio field office. Why is it vacant, you might ask? This position, which, and I quote, is meant to work with local emergency managers to plan for floods, including when and how to warn local residents and help them evacuate. This position has been vacant since April 30th because the person who was in that job took Trump's early retirement package. Now, that's the San Antonio office, which covers a much larger downstream area from where the major flooding occurred. San Angelo office, which covers Kerr County, was missing a senior hydrologist, staff forecaster, and meteorologist in charge. Overall, between the two offices covering the flood area, the job vacancy rate is double what it was when Trump took office. This all points at a much larger issue that Trump and his MAGA cult just do not understand. Yes, it is annoying that we live in a world with frustrating, unpredictable problems. And yes, it is expensive to deal with those frustrating and unpredictable problems. But it's the reality we live in, even if it's a reality that Trump is incapable of facing. Because what we're seeing right now is the consequence of his ignorant, naive fantasy, where he can fix everything faster than anyone else, where he can make everything better than anyone else, and where he can do everything cheaper than anyone else. And the best news is, it only takes 2 weeks. Sorry, America, but that's con man shit. And 75 million Americans played the role of the mark perfectly.
Yeah, so we'll continue to follow this in the days ahead. This is going to be a story that will linger in the news cycle for some time, and it's something that will affect many people's lives for the rest of their lives. Okay, again, short break. Be right back.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Pierre Poilievre, conservative leader, kinda, almost. Is he still the leader? No, not. Oh, I guess he can be the leader. Did he retain his? I don't think he is the leader. Anyway, he's not in the House of Commons, seeking election and a by-election so that he can return to the House. In any event, he delivered a fiery speech at the Calgary Stampede, vowing to give Western Canada a stronger voice in Ottawa. I'm sorry, my memory's failing me. I don't think he is the leader. I think he's just jobless. He spoke to a sold-out crowd at the Conservative Party barbecue, and Poilievre declared, "The era of Ottawa telling Alberta to pay up and shut up must end once and for all." So in this speech, he pledges to champion Western interests, particularly Alberta's, by addressing what he called unfair treatment from the federal government. His rhetoric very Western focused as he faces separatists in that local by-election where he is seeking a seat that will give him access again to the House and the leadership for the Conservatives. Because he lost in the last election. We'll see how he does in the by-election. Let's sample some of this speech, shall we, from Pierre Poilievre. I'm going to call him the Conservative leader.
On earth, and before I begin, thank you to the amazing Damien Currick, a man for whom I will forever be grateful. Thank you, Damien. You know, there'll be more to say about him in a moment, but I did overhear him talking about my door knocking, and what he forgot to tell was his first campaign. Despite the immense lead he had, he did not want to take anything for granted. Damien was out door knocking, I think it was in Drumheller, and he wouldn't let up. It got to be 9 o'clock, it was late at night, and he kept going. And his team said, you know, it's getting to be 9:15, maybe you should think about stopping. He said, no, we got to keep on going. He wanted to win every single vote. So it got to be 9:30. The lights were starting to go out on the street, and Damien just kept on going. And finally, his team said, Damien, you're going to start costing us rather than winning us votes. He said, okay, I'll make you a deal. One more vote, and then I stop. He goes up to this house, lights are all off, bangs on the door. All of a sudden, babies crying. Multiple babies crying. The lights go on, they're screaming and hollering from the parents. The mother opens the door and says, you just woke up my triplets. And my husband, she says, who is an Olympic weightlifter, is going to be coming down to have a word with you. And he said, that won't be necessary, just tell him that the Liberal candidate came by to say hello. How are you, Premier? Great to see Premier Danielle Smith, a champion for freedom. Wow. They love you, Danielle, and I know that you're a very hospitable person at Stampede time. Even for Liberals, we have to be hospitable. And so let me start in a spirit of nonpartisanship as a Calgarian to welcome Prime Minister Mark Carney to his very first Stampede in this role. And he had, of course, to do the customary thing and flip some pancakes. Now, he thought he would be great at it because in his trade talks with Trump, he's had so much experience flip-flopping. But still, it didn't go as planned. One of the pancakes got broken in half and the other one splattered everywhere. And he owned up to it, but a careful review of a slow motion replay demonstrated exactly what the problem was. He couldn't figure out whether to put his elbows up or down. So, but it is great to be home here. You know, I used to come here to Heritage Park when I was in school. They'd bring us here, our parents would dress us up like it was 1905. And we go into the little schoolhouse. I think it's still over there. And they even had the little strap. They didn't hit us very hard, but I got a little bit of a mark on my palm for talking too much during the class. And this is the place that taught me my values, the values of hard work, freedom, family, values that my wife Anna, who I'm very honored to have with me here, shares, the values with which we're raising our kids. I grew up in these neighborhoods, walked my dog, ran my dog in Fish Creek Park, delivered the Calgary Sun door to door as my very first job, played hockey in the local arenas. And these values that I've taken from this community and this province have taken me forward. And of course, these are the values of all Albertans. They're the values that Damien Couric has demonstrated in putting his country first. And I'm very excited. Yes, give him one more round of applause. Damien is a family man, a hardworking patriot, a great farmer, beloved in his community, known and trusted by people far and wide. And the story that touches me most about him and Danielle was about a year ago, his father passed away unexpectedly right in the middle of the harvest, and they have 6,000 acres that they had to bring home. And if you can imagine, making arrangements and mourning such a loss in the middle of the harvest was a big problem. They didn't know how they were going to bring home the crop. Then all of a sudden, there were these combines that just appeared from all directions on one morning. And they fanned out into the field, and they brought home the crop and dropped it in the bins and went back to their farms to do their jobs. And that really is the story of Alberta, isn't it? It was a harvest in more than one way. It was a harvest of the crop that had been planted, but also a harvest of all the friendships that had been built over so many years. But the Alberta way didn't require a government program or a grant or an application to come to the rescue in a time of difficulty, because that's not how Albertans work. They get up, they get it done, they do what's right, they help a neighbor, and when they're done, they don't expect any thank you. They go back to doing their business and caring for their families. That's what it means to be an Albertan. That's the spirit of the Stampede, the spirit of free enterprise, personal responsibility, communities coming together, neighbors helping each other. It's about remembering where you come from so you know where you're going. But that is also the story of Canada. And on the topic of Canada, we know that there can only be a strong Canada when there is a strong and respected Alberta. For me, that's personal. I was born in '79, and of course, only a few years later, Pierre Elliott Trudeau would attack our province with the National Energy Program. Not to mention, there's still a few that remember that. Many probably still paying the bill from it. At the same time, he hammered the entire country with money printing deficits that gave us the worst inflation and interest rates in our history. Our family actually lost our home, and we had to scrimp and save and get help from extended family in order to get our little place in Shaughnessy, which my mother still lives in. I think my mother is here today somewhere. There she is. And when I got a little older and I started to understand politics and realize what had happened and why we had gone through so much hardship in my early childhood, that's one of the things that got me into politics, to join with fellow Westerners to stand up for our province, for fairness within a united Canada, to stand with the great leaders like Preston Manning, Stockwell Day, Stephen Harper, Ralph Klein, and to carry on the tradition that they started. And we'll do it again. And we will do it again. What's that? Peter Lougheed, another one. Yep, he was a little early for me, but yes, absolutely, Peter Lougheed. And You look too young to have known Peter Lougheed, but that is the tradition that Danielle carries on today. And let me tell you, we are going to fight for our province again. We'll fight for oil and gas, for farmers, for low taxes, for decentralization, a stronger military, and a smaller federal government so that we can have a bigger Alberta. And if elected in Battle River Crowfoot, I'll use the platform of Leader of the Opposition to amplify the legitimate demands of Western Canada to end the unfair treatment. The era of Ottawa telling Alberta to pay up and shut up must end once and for all. But the answer is alliances. We need to build alliances with other provinces that share our destiny and our interests. Let's build an alliance with British Columbians who want to ship liquefied natural gas off of our Pacific coast to Asia and bring home hundreds of billions of dollars in paychecks doing it. Let's build alliances. Let's build alliances with Saskatchewanians and Newfoundlanders and Labradorians who want to develop their oil and gas and aren't interested in having anyone in Ottawa cap how much they can produce. Let's build alliances with Manitobans who want to ship oil out of the port of Churchill. Let's build alliances, yes, let's build alliances with Quebec and other provinces that want to decentralize our country and get Ottawa out of our business so that provinces and people can make their own decisions. Nous allons bâtir des alliances avec les autres provinces, y compris le Québec, pour la décentralisation et pour l'autonomie des provinces et pour nous débarrasser des gouvernements centralisateurs, des politiciens qui veulent contrôler tout. We want to put our country and our people back in charge of their lives. Now, to be honest, I wanted to return here today with an election victory. And though we didn't win, we made extraordinary gains. We added 25 new seats and 2.5 million extra votes, the biggest share of vote since 1988. We added union members, young people, new Canadians, and countless others to our bigger and broader coalition. We earned the support of these people by talking about the things that matters. My friends, we won every single major debate of our time on inflation, on housing, on natural resources, crime, drugs, and yes, the carbon tax. Conservatives led the debate and Conservatives won the debate, and we know that people would still be paying the carbon tax today had we not put in that fight. Now, the Liberals, they have a new salesman. They changed Trudeau for Carney, and he has a new, it's a new look, new talking points, some of which he's plagiarized from yours truly. And he's now claiming to support things that he's long opposed. Beyond that, he's trying to flip-flop on the issues that we know he really believes in. But at his core, he believes in the same top-down government knows best approach. Carney's first ever spending bill boosted the cost of government by 8% in just 1 year. That's twice the combined rate of inflation and population growth. And I note that that is on the baseline of the biggest, fattest, most morbidly obese government we've ever had. He's kept Trudeau's failed policies, the same red tape, the same production caps, the no new pipelines law, the ban on oil tankers, on gas-powered cars, and on much more. His catch and release laws, he's kept them in place. He hasn't changed them. You know, the former Liberal Justice Minister actually had his car stolen 3 times. This is a true story. He literally had his car stolen 3 times while he was Justice Minister, letting car thieves out of jail. But, you know, it is kind of surprising that they would target the former Justice Minister or a Liberal politician, because you'd think there'd be some sort of professional courtesy. in their industry. Mr. Carney, though, has done nothing to reverse this policy, and crime rages in our streets as a result. He's kept Trudeau's out-of-control immigration. His deficits are spiraling out of control. Think of this. Over the last 10 years, Liberals have created a morbidly obese government, and over the last 10 weeks, Mark Carney has added hundreds of billions of dollars of new spending promises to it. Ces déficits sont complètement hors de contrôle. Au cours des 10 dernières années, les libéraux ont créé un gouvernement morbidement obèse. Et au cours des 10 dernières semaines, M. Carney y a ajouté des centaines de milliards de dollars, brisant sa promesse de dépenser moins. Ça, c'est irresponsable. Il nous faut contrôler les dépenses. And the reality is, my friends, that Mark Carney and the Liberals are spending irresponsibly and threatening our present generation with high inflation and our future generations with more debt. In fact, it looks like this year's Liberal deficit might be even bigger than the one that Trudeau left behind. The Liberals have gone from the budget will balance itself to there's no budget at all. And this is really building on their ideology. Tax, regulate, subsidize, repeat. Mr. Carney has the same approach as Trudeau on this as well. Liberals block things, and then they subsidize those same things. Think about it. They block pipelines. Then they buy pipelines. They pay local bureaucracies to block home building. Then they create a $25 billion bureaucracy to build homes. They ban independent media from the internet, and then they subsidize other media, supposedly because we have a crisis in news coverage. They pass laws that stop things, and then they dig into your pocket to subsidize those same things. As Ronald Reagan put it, if anything moves, a Liberal will tax it. If it keeps moving, a Liberal will regulate it. And when it stops moving, a Liberal will subsidize it. Now, the commonality and the consistency in all of this is the simple. By blocking you from doing something and then making you ask the government to help you do it, it makes you reliant on them. It puts them at the center of all power, in charge of your life. And that is their mission, that is their goal. Mark Carney wants a full government takeover of our economy. He wants more control over your life, so elites and insiders like him control and profit from everything. We Conservatives, by contrast, we believe in freedom. We want you to have the ability to control your own destiny and make your own course. We believe in freedom of enterprise, freedom of speech, thought, religion, expression, and more. We want government that minds its own business and leaves people to be free to decide for themselves. Let workers work, let builders build, let farmers farm, let investors invest, and let parents parent. Now, these might seem like theoretical differences, but they are very tangible. Here's the core difference between an economy controlled by the government and one controlled by the free market. A government-controlled economy is a political economy. Businesses have to clamor to please politicians and bureaucrats. In a free market, which we favor, businesses clamor to impress customers. The idea is to put people in charge of their economic lives by letting them have free exchange of work for wages, product for payment, and investment for interest. We want Canada to be the freest country on earth, where everyone who works hard gets a fair shot at a good life. And that is what brings us here to this moment. That's what brings us to the moment and the job that Canadians have given us. In the short run, our job is to be a strong opposition. In the long run, a principled government in waiting. As Lincoln said, I stand with a man when he stands right, and I stand against him when he stands wrong. We will, for example, offer any help we can to get a fair deal for Canada with our American friends. However, we will fight back when the government is wrong. We will fight tooth and nail against the ban on gas-powered vehicles. You should be in the driver's seat and have the freedom to decide what you drive. We will continue to oppose the industrial carbon tax, C-69, C-48, the cap on our energy production, the plastics ban. We're going to unleash our energy and our production and make Alberta and Canada the richest place on planet Earth. We will fight against C-11, the censorship law, and the Online Harms Act, so that Canadians can decide what they see and say on the internet. We will not let the government open your mail without a warrant. That's not how it works in a free country. We will fight for an end to the catch and release bail laws, which have unleashed chaos on our streets, and we will stand unapologetically with licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested firearms owners, our hunters and our sport shooters. And we will put Canada first in everything that we do, and that includes immigration. Look, we're a welcoming country, but the latest news that the Liberals allowed 17,500 foreign criminals to enter our country by sponging their prior criminal records is just the latest example in the radical, liberal, failed experiment with open borders. And Mark Carney refuses to deport any of these individuals, nor has he changed any of the radical immigration targets that Justin Trudeau left behind. Our housing, our health care, our jobs are overwhelmed. Our young people are cast aside while low-paid, temporary foreign workers take their jobs. We must end the abuse in the temporary foreign worker program, the international student program, the refugee system, and we must restore an immigration system that puts our country and its people first. We reject the radical Century Initiative, which Liberals have endorsed, saying that they want to bring our population to 100 million people over this century. Look, we don't blame people for wanting to come here. Almost all of us trace our lineage back to immigrants, other than our First Peoples. But that immigration must be controlled. It must be in numbers that we can absorb. It must be the right people at the right pace that will allow us to succeed as Canadians and integrate and be one united country. And to put Canada first, we need to have a strong armed forces. Conservatives will continue to champion our soldiers, our sailors, and our airmen to do the job of securing our sovereignty, rebuilding our alliances, asserting our claims, and also preparing for danger. But our military is not just about more money. Yes, we need more money, but that money needs to get to the front lines, not to back office bureaucracy, not to procurement boondoggles, and not to pet projects of the government. In reality, our military must have a warrior culture and not a woke culture. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, fighting for these values is never easy. Change, as we've seen, is not easy. Nothing worth doing is easy. But building Alberta was not easy. You think it was easy for the frontier farmers and the prairie pioneers to break cold ground in order to settle this land? No, it wasn't easy either for the oilmen to pierce through the frost and stone to bring the black gold to the surface. It wasn't easy for the prairie mothers to feed hungry children during drought, depression, and war. It wasn't easy for us to run rail across Mustang and Mountain. It wasn't easy for our prairie boys to go off and fight for freedom against tyranny in the Great Wars. None of that was easy. Making Alberta was hard. Making Canada, the country we love, was even harder. But we don't back down and we don't run away when things get hard. We dust ourselves off, we get back in the saddle, and we gallop forward to the fight. So let's fight for our freedom, fight for our families, fight for Alberta, fight for Canada. I am ready for the fight. Are you ready to join me? Let's do it for the country we love. God bless Canada. Thank you very much and happy Stampede.
So I got to say, that was interesting and different. Oh, passionate kiss at the end. Do you notice the difference in that speech compared to what we were getting during the election? The slogans, they're gone. The cliches, not there as much, but new rhetoric, new phrases, maybe new slogans, talking about, what was it, a warrior culture? That's directly from the US of A, Trump land. He sounds a lot like Pete Hegseth when he says that. That's definitely Trumpisms coming to the surface. Of course, the focus of the speech, very Alberta-centric. He can do that right now because, of course, he needs to get elected in Alberta. So he's centering his speeches around Alberta and Alberta rhetoric. Not surprising. He just needs to win that riding to get back into the House of Commons. So that's why you're getting such an Alberta specific message from him. But it is different. I have to say that as the campaign dragged on and got near the end, it seemed to be, for me anyway, dragging a bit because the slogans, they started to kind of just wear thin after a while. You know, the whole bring it home thing, it worked for a while, but then especially when Trump started to threaten the country with the 51st state talk and the tariffs, it was difficult for Poiliev and the Conservatives to pivot. They just weren't able to respond in a way that connected with enough Canadians, obviously, at the end of the day, at the end of the election. Those slogans, they just weren't the right, they just didn't offer up the right messaging at the right time. And the Liberals came back and made the most of Trump's pressure and rhetoric and threats even to Canadian sovereignty. The interesting thing I noticed too, and this is true, is he mentions the carbon tax, cutting the carbon tax, saying, of course, that never would have happened if it hadn't been for the Conservatives applying pressure. Axe the tax, axe the tax. And then Carney, very, very smart strategic move, stole the Conservatives' thunder. He axed the tax before the voters went to the polls, didn't he? Yes, he did. And today I noticed that as I was driving around, in fact, I pulled in, I had to get a little bit of gas with the little bit of money that I had because I was running errands today, taking care of business. And gas here, $1.19 per liter. Yeah, I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised. And so that prompts me now to take a quick look at what is going on with gas prices across Canada in the wake of the bunker buster bombings in Iran and the axe the tax fallout. Where are we at tonight with gasoline prices in Canada? Well, as I say, $1.19 here. Where did it's got to be right there. There it is. Here's Canadian Automobile Association. We'll go to their website, take a quick look to see what the prices are Canada-wide tonight. Then we'll take a look at the U.S. side. There it is right there. $1.35.4 That is the average price across Canada today. Yesterday was $1.31. A week ago, $1.40. A month ago, $1.28. A year ago, $1.64. Thank you, Justin Trudeau, for that. Big drop. That's a huge difference. For me, $1.19. That's a lot lower than $1.64. So I'm grateful for that. And yes, I have to say that we do owe that really to the Conservatives, although Carney was the guy who stole their thunder, didn't he? I don't really care how we get it. I'm just grateful that we've got the lower price. Either way, as long as we get the result. So what about AAA, Gas Buddy? So in the USA tonight, here we go. $3.14. I think that's about the same as it was when we checked. Or was it about 4 days ago? We were looking online here, and that's because Trump was claiming that gas was down to, I think he said $1.99 a gallon in 5 states. And in fact, it isn't at $1.99 anywhere in the United States. So another big lie. $3.14.5. $3.14 is the average today across America. Yesterday was $3.14. A week ago, $3.18, $3.14. A month ago, $3.50. A year ago. So heading down. And I have to say that this comes on the heels of predictions that just didn't come true. Let me show you what I mean right here. This was June 18th. And we've had a lot of things happen since June 18th, but this was the prediction by many industry analysts and media pundits. Israel-Iran conflict expected to hike U.S. gas prices. Experts say, here's how much. So what were they predicting here? June 18th. This is on ABC. U.S. oil prices hovered near a 5-month high on Wednesday. This was June 18th, as President Donald Trump weighed direct involvement and support of Israeli strikes on Iran, making it all but certain that gasoline prices would rise for Americans within days. Industry analysts told ABC News. The U.S. West Texas Intermediate Futures price, a key measure of U.S. oil prices, has surged more than 20% in June, as tensions between Iran and Israel have boiled over into an exchange of missile strikes. Oh, those futures, they're risky. You get into the futures market, and it can save your butt, but it can cost you. The back and forth strikes stoked concern among investors about a possible wider conflict across the Middle East. So what were they predicting here? The national average price of a gallon of gas stands at $3.19 per gallon. That was on that date, which marks a 7-cent increase over the past week. Gas prices have climbed in 49 out of 50 U.S. states. It's doomsday. That's the way it was. What was the date again? June 18th? Yeah, June 18th. So they were predicting big spikes in pricing for gasoline. A further escalation of the conflict between Israel and Iran could send oil and gas prices significantly higher, said Ramanam Krishnamurti, a professor, don't know him, of petroleum engineering at the University of Houston. Never heard of him. Anyway, he's an expert, I guess. He says oil prices could surge from a current level of about $73 per barrel up to $120 per barrel if the Israel-Iran conflict damages Iranian oil infrastructure or impedes the passage of some oil tankers on the Strait of Hormuz. And the scenario would amount to a more than 60% surge in oil prices. the average price of a gallon of gas would climb to above $5. Do. Oh my God. Yeah, well, that didn't come to pass. So it's okay. We survived. Doomsday did not come. Yeah. 120 a barrel. Not today. Wow. Are we any better off? I'm not so sure, because as much as Trump keeps saying that they obliterated the nuclear program for Iran, I don't think so. A lot of evidence now coming out showing that it was damaged, but not obliterated. And I would say that in some respects, we are in a more dangerous situation. This isn't really analysis that I'm hearing from other places, but the International Atomic Energy Agency is now being denied access by Iran because of the U.S. attack. So no more IAEA inspections. We don't have an agreement to stop Iran from enriching uranium. Now we don't even have the UN watchdog agency able to go in there to assess and monitor at all. They're not being given access. We don't know if the uranium that had been enriched to 60% was moved out prior to the bombing. I would say from what I've been hearing in terms of what the actual rhetoric was, the Trump saying that he actually warned the Iranians before he dropped those bombs, I'd say it's highly probable that the uranium was moved out prior to. And then Iran, if you believe Trump, and I do, if Iran then warned the United States that it was going to attack the military base and then fired missiles, but kind of sort of missed, the whole thing seems very clearly choreographed, almost like a fake attack. It's very odd, isn't it? Trump, just prior to the attacks, dropping those bombs, in the day before, being asked, I think it was the day before, by a reporter, what are you going to do? I'm paraphrasing. And then he started to mock the reporter, like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not telling you. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I might bomb them. I might not bomb them. And yet, so he won't tell the reporter anything. But then after the bombing raids, he comes out and says that he told Iran, he warned them in advance, sort of as a courtesy. It seems very theatrical to me instead of anything terribly realistic. He's always made a big deal, or at least he did, especially when he was campaigning the first time around. He talked about how stupid his political opponents and some of the generals were for telegraphing, essentially, metaphorically speaking, their intent when it came to military actions. He said, how stupid can you be? And then he does exactly that. I think if he's doing that, and he says he does, it's for diplomatic reasons, but it also makes me question, what's he really up to? What's really going on? If dropping bombs like that is ultimately just a PR stunt, or largely a PR stunt, then where are the alliances truly sitting at the end of the day? It's if you're telling a country, or the leaders of a country that are supposed to be your adversary, if you're that concerned, why are you warning them? It's strange times. I think maybe I'm naive and have been naive when it comes to warfare, because we haven't had to live through a war like this before. But this is a different kind of war, isn't it? And we are at war with the United States telling Iran, we're going to bomb you. And then the end result is that Trump will sit there and say that the world is now safer. He called it as a big win, claimed it as a big win. And yet, as I sit here tonight, as much as Trump is saying that the world is a safer place, some people want to give him the Nobel Peace Prize. And even though this ceasefire seems to be holding between Iran and Israel, I don't feel any safer. I feel much less safe. And I'm still wondering, whose side is Donald Trump really on?
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so so as of tonight, the fragile truce that was brokered by Trump on June 24th between Israel and Iran appears to be holding. So you have 12 days of intense conflict that transpired, hence the title, The 12-Day War. Again, I mean, it's just... It feels very theatrical. Both nations have committed to honoring the ceasefire unless violated by the other, though mutual accusations of breaches in the initial hours raised concerns. Israel's defense minister and Iran's president have both emphasized conditional compliance seems to be holding. And the conflict began, as you know, with Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. June 13th killed 28 in Israel. Apparently, over 600 people in Iran were killed, with thousands injured. There has been a U.S. intelligence report suggesting American airstrikes sent Iran's nuclear program back by only months now, though. This coming from the U.S., this information, despite claims of much greater impact from the Donald. And Iran's parliament has since voted to suspend cooperation now with UN nuclear inspectors. This signals ongoing tensions. And now I think we're in a much worse spot because we have no eyes or ears in there, period. President Trump announced talks with Iran are planned for next week. The details of those plans remain unclear at this time, though, and life in both countries is cautiously returning to normal. Israel lifting wartime restrictions in Iran, reopening airspace. However, what do we have tonight? Analysts warning that the ceasefire's stability is uncertain, and there is still deep mistrust and regional tensions persisting. So, and Iran and its proxies still very active in the Middle East, shipping under attack. A couple of ships on both sides lost today, as I understand it. A couple of ships actually sinking tonight. And then, of course, we still have this ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Now in its 1,225th day, and that's just since the full-scale invasion. Russia really invading 11 years ago by annexing Crimea. And, of course, the conflict in the Donbass and those regions of Ukraine really active since that time. And the war continues to devastate the country. Russian forces hold roughly 20% of Ukrainian territory at this point, with recent advances in Donetsk, capturing settlements near Pokrovsk. Ukraine's military reports halting Russian gains in Sumy with a counteroffensive underway. The war has killed over 40,000 civilians, with 12.7 million needing humanitarian aid. Russian drone and missile strikes, including a massive barrage of 477 drones and 60 missiles this week, have targeted Kyiv and other cities, killing dozens. And if you recall, we did run a report about a week ago now, indicating that these types of massive attacks were likely coming from would be coming from the Russian side. Here we are about a week later, and indeed that is what we are seeing transpire. Ukraine's air defenses are strained, worsened, of course, by what we saw this happen this week, a U.S. pause in some weapons shipments due to low stockpiles. At least that was the story that was told. But many military experts and many right within the United States are saying that really seems to be some sort of a cover story. It's not even clear where the order ultimately came from. Some suggestions that Pete Hegseth kind of signing off on this again without the authorization or approval of Donald Trump, or maybe someone else in the administration, or within Pete Hegseth's department, pushing forward with this, maybe without even President Trump actively being involved, although that could give him some degree of plausible deniability. President Zelensky, whose term continues under martial law, is pushing for more Western aid, while President Trump's call for negotiations has yielded no progress. I also have been wondering this past week, what good is Trump's word on anything, given that he went over, and Zelensky came over to the White House too. And what did they do? They finally signed that rare earth minerals deal. And now what are we getting back on the other side from the Trump administration? They're just halting the weapons shipments anyway. Obviously, Zelensky agreed to the rare earth minerals deal because he was looking for support from the United States. But of course, Trump's saying no security guarantees will be attached to this. And yet the United States now seems to have access to the wealth of, over time, half of Ukraine's natural resource wealth. If I read the agreement properly, but then they just pull out anyway. So what good was it? And now, because the lack of U.S. support, pulling support, Russia has been able to make a little bit of additional, gain a little bit of additional ground, including, I believe, some critical lithium mining properties and territories. So it's not even clear if Ukraine would, if it's even worth, that the deal is worth what it was when it was signed. And that's because, again, the lack of, I would say, the support from the United States that was promised from the very beginning by the United States, which, again, just paints the United States with a brush of unreliability. How can you trust the country? And certainly, how can you trust Trump? While there was no security guarantee attached to that rare earths minerals deal, that clearly was the intent. That was the hope. That's why it was all done. So we'll see what happens over the next, I think, week, especially, to see if the United States does anything more in this regard to do the honorable thing. But I don't think they will, especially after speaking with our Ukrainian expert and friend Carl Larson this past week, where he seemed resigned to the idea that the United States has really finally kind of walked away from this thing, leaving the fate of Ukraine up to the support or whatever support they'll get from Europe and other allies, including Canada, because they will need support in order to continue to wage a resistance against the Russian invasion. And massive attacks from the Russians now coming. It's like Trump basically gave them the green light. Go ahead. Just go ahead. He really did. Even in his words this past week, the way that he responded to questions about Vladimir Putin, saying, well, I'm not happy with Vladimir Putin, but there's nothing, he doesn't seem to want to make peace. But then not taking it any further than that. That just signals, I think, to Vladimir Putin, well, he's not happy, but he's not going to do anything about it. Oh, well. So it really has, I think, given the Russians a green light. And that's why you saw the massive attack this past week on Kyiv. And that did kill civilians, because those attacks are not aimed at military targets. Those are going into civilian areas, bombing civilians. Peace talks in Istanbul show little promise, with Russia demanding Ukraine's demilitarization, of course, still, and territorial concessions, which Kyiv continues to reject. And you have to remember as well that, I've had couple of people saying, one person in particular who messages me quite regularly saying, just call for peace on the Ukrainian side. They are defending their home. They're not going to quit. That's what Carl Larson said this past week. We've, had our other Ukrainian experts on as well, who have indicated the same thing. It's not going to matter. The Ukrainians are going to continue to fight because they're defending their home, contrary to the narrative that continues to be spun by the pro-Russian set. Yeah, it's a very divisive issue. And, even within the MAGA camp, we've seen a great deal of division, haven't we, in the past week or so, where, Elon Musk announced just this past week, just days ago, the formation of the America Party. I believe he did it on July 4th, if I'm not mistaken. This escalates his public feud with President Trump. Yeah, in that post, he declared, "Today, the America Party is formed to give you back your freedom." He conducted a poll on X where 65% of 1.2 million respondents supported a new party to challenge the two-party system. And the move follows Musk's opposition to Trump's big, beautiful bill, that $3.3 trillion tax cut and spending law, which was signed into law on Friday. And then on the 4th, of course, yes, that's what he did. Trump signed the big, beautiful bill, which Musk claims will bankrupt America. Musk, of course, CEO of SpaceX and Tesla, which both companies, massive recipients of massive amounts of government subsidies and support since their creation. And Musk was once, of course, as you know, Trump's key ally and campaign donor. Pretty expensive lesson there, Elon. What was it, $270+ million that he threw at the Trump campaign? Said that election, you remember him standing on stage saying, this election, this one is really important. If we don't win this one, he was saying that it's the end of America. A lot of it because of what he viewed as excessive spending. Then he gets in there with the Department of Getting Even. I mean, the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge. Ironically named after the Doge coin, doggy coin, the meme coin. You couldn't make this stuff up. And now dissatisfied with what Trump is doing, saying that Trump is the guy who's going to bankrupt America. I'm beginning to think maybe that's true too. Everything Trump is doing, it is creating an on again, off again economy. He's throttling up, throttling down. He's manipulating the economy in ways that I haven't seen in my lifetime. With his words, with his legislation, with his executive orders, his tariffs, he's controlling the markets. Up, down, on, off. One day there are tariffs of 50%, 100%. We're going to double the tariffs, and then bam, the tariffs are off. Do you know what that does to the markets? It just screws with market confidence. It screws with people's minds. It screws up long-term investment plans. It literally makes the market go up and down like a yo-yo. And when you're doing things like that, if you know when to buy and sell, if maybe you know what Trump is going to do, or you can read what he's doing, like understand or interpret it, and then be able to anticipate his actions, you can make a lot of money. Why do I feel like it's all a manipulation? Because it's more than a feeling. I think it is the reality. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that party, that the America Party, is actually being registered officially yet with the Federal Election Commission. But if there's somebody who can do it, it's Musk, because he's got the deep pockets to do it, even though the value of his company's stocks are going up and down and up and down. And just as he had mentioned, talked about the formation of the America Party, we've seen some investors pull back from Musk's projects. So in some ways, it's already hurt him. Being associated with Trump in many ways has hurt him. His brand image, he's politicized his brand. I think he was in there largely because he was looking to collect skim data, probably got a lot of data, maybe even illegally. Who knows? Because he had access to virtually all government records as his team was going through everything through the Doge department. And I think he wanted in there to try to apply influence and pressure because he is dependent on government subsidies and grants for SpaceX and Tesla, and especially the EV mandates. He needs those things for his company to survive, especially in the face of Chinese competition. But everything is in a place of chaos when it comes to the economy. It really is. I mean, almost chaos. We're experiencing big pressure here on the Canadian side as well. And I've seen just this past week reports of the Canadian real estate market beginning to show serious signs of slowing down. Here's the Financial Post. Canada home prices seen falling further as tariff war deepens downturn. Very serious stuff.
Overnight policy rate unchanged at 2.75%. What does that announcement, or rather non-policy move, do for real estate, do for your business?
Yeah, so they kept it at 2.75, which means that prime at most lenders sits at 4.95 today. So nothing has changed. Everything remains the same. One of the things they talked about is that they're going to continue to monitor the situation. A lot of things were raised in that post in regards to inflation, as well as tariffs and the ongoing trade issues that are happening in Canada right now with some of our neighbors. So basically, this is a wait and see approach, or a hold and wait approach. So what's likely to happen here is we're likely to see the next announcement become more important. We're going to wait and see if there's another decrease at the next announcement, or whether they're going to continue to hold. I think it's no surprise today that they did hold. A lot of economists in the marketplace were saying that we would see no movement, and that's exactly what happened. So in terms of the real estate, a lot of people were waiting on the sidelines, hoping there would be a decrease on this announcement, and there has not been. What does this mean for the end consumer? Does this mean people are going to continue to stay on the sidelines, or should people really jump into the market? That's something we can certainly help with and talk about today. In regards to the marketplace right now, it's certainly a buyer's market. And if you are poised to buy, I think it's an excellent time.
That's a real estate agent talking. It's all there's never been a better time to buy. I'm not so sure, because in reality, we are seeing home prices slumping. Yes. So what's really going on? I've seen a number of reports confirming that real estate sales across the country are slowing significantly. Take note of this. It's funny. A relative of mine just purchased a house within the past week, and my wife told me about this, and I said, well, they better hope the market doesn't crash, because home prices have been increasing steadily because of largely immigration, housing shortage, supply and demand. You don't have enough homes, prices climb, right? Well, things have changed now dramatically, with prices starting to slump in major cities. According to the Canadian Real Estate Association, don't just listen to a real estate agent on the Financial Post page. You'll get burned potentially. You need to get a more balanced assessment. According to the Canadian Real Estate Association, national home sales in May 2025 rose 3.6% from April, but were down 4.3% compared to May 2024. And the national average home price fell to $691,000, a 1.8% drop year over year, while the benchmark price for a typical home decreased 3.5% to $701,000. And in Toronto, condo sales plummeted 30% in April compared to last year. That's huge. With average prices down 6.8%. That's big. To 678,000. Vancouver's condo market is also struggling, with sales down 20% and benchmark prices falling 1.8% to 762,000. Experts point to high interest rates, economic uncertainty from U.S. trade disputes. That's the big one. U.S. trade disputes creating uncertainty. Who wants to commit to a 20-year mortgage if you don't know what's going to happen to the Canadian economy? If you're not certain, if you're worried that maybe you're going to get laid off because Donald Trump's tariffs might take a big bite out of your industry, are you going to commit to a 20-year mortgage at the current market rate, at like current market prices, knowing that if things don't go well, prices are coming down? Then you're going to be stuck with that 20-year mortgage at the price that you paid. And there's also now a record supply of unsold condos in some of those Toronto area markets and in Vancouver. And it's all because of those key factors. In the Greater Toronto area, inventory is at a 20-year high with 7 months of unsold units. So they've been building and growing up there, but now suddenly sales have slumped. So we're seeing growing concern within the market, consumers expressing concern. In that way, it does kind of make it a buyer's market, but this is just the beginning of what could be a downward trend in pricing. Now, I'm not here to give you advice. You should always consult a financial expert, a licensed financial advisor before making any kind of investment. Don't just listen to me, and don't take all your real estate advice from me, not by a long shot. I am just saying that right now we are clearly, from all these reports, entering a new period of volatility. Things could go either way. Nobody knows, because we don't know what's going to happen with Donald Trump. That is why a lot of people are backing off, waiting to see what's going to happen before signing on the line for a mortgage. Vancouver and Calgary, Toronto. A lot of people, experts, real estate experts, and financial and experts, economists, they're saying that what they're calling this, the phrase that I've been hearing, is a silent collapse. A silent collapse. That's the phrase that seems to to maybe be happening in some of these markets. I also noticed just within the past week, strangely, maybe not coincidentally, more for sale signs on front lawns in my neighborhood. I just happened to take note of it about 5 days ago. More houses around here with for sale signs on them. So, well, some markets like Manitoba are showing some modest price growth. Analysts are warning that these tariff-related job losses, which are possible, could lead to further price declines. So, as always, caution is advised when making any kind of investment or long-term, or just signing on the line for any kind of long-term loan. So just be careful out there, folks. Do your homework, and then make sure you make the best decision for yourself. So what else do we have for you tonight? Yeah, I got, I think we've covered off a lot of the main stuff. I did want to say, too, that with regard to the James Bowder interview that we did the other night, I think there are still a few things that I should be addressing with regard to that. So, as you may, if you haven't been watching and you don't know what I'm talking about, James Bowder, Freedom Convoy participant, activist, has left Canada seeking what he says is political asylum in the United States. So we had him on for a feature interview where we learned really that his case could be potentially precedent setting. He acknowledged this precedent setting in the sense that the United States has never actually granted political asylum to anybody since 1867, Canadian Confederation. And if the United States were to do that for James Bowder, who is facing charges related to his activities in the Freedom Convoy, and he says he could go to jail for up to 15 years, although based on legal precedent, it's more likely that he would receive maybe a few months in jail or maybe house arrest. That seems to be the trend in the kind of sentencing that we've been seeing for others charged with those kinds of offenses. That being said, if the Trump administration grants him political asylum, it would be a diplomatic crisis between Canada and the U.S. because that would be the United States at that point, and Trump and his administration then saying we view Canada as an authoritarian, dictatorial state that persecutes people for political reasons, and because of that, it's no longer considered a safe destination for refugees or asylum seekers or maybe anybody, and it could potentially then be viewed as a country that poses a national security risk to the United States, which is what James Bowder told us his lawyers had also told him. And so his activities down there will then play into all of this 51st state rhetoric and Alberta separatism. These are the issues that are kind of coming to the surface. You should go watch the entire interview to get the full context. I encourage you to do that. He was on not last night, but the night before. And then last night we had Bridget Belton, another freedom fighter who was the mother of the convoy. Bridget, of course, saying that she's the one who actually started the Freedom Convoy. And she was responding to the dispute, really, that became apparent during the call-in portion of the Bowder interview where she called in and they were clashing a bit. Anyway, go watch those interviews. It's very eye-opening. But the reason I bring it up tonight is this. There are a few things that I think still there's some loose ends that could still and should be still tied up. I sent James Bowder a message. I have asked him, because he's asking people for money, I've asked him to provide a copy of his I-589 form. That is the form that needs to be filled out in order to actually apply for political asylum. The reason I've done that is because he made this claim on our program, then talks about the GoFundMe that he has set up. He's asking people to donate to cover his legal bills, even though if he stayed back in Canada, his legal bills were already covered because he had legal representation secured. But I've asked him to provide that document to actually verify that what he's saying is true. Because while he was on this program, I was taking him at his word. And the other reason and one of the main reasons I took him at his word is because he has stated this publicly on social media himself. There have also been posts and on other live stream programs. Other influencers have also acknowledged now that Bowder has filed for asylum in the United States. But I have to date not seen any paperwork. I have not seen anything from a lawyer confirming this. And given that people are again being asked to donate money, I've just asked him as a courtesy to forward that document to us so that we can see that this is a legitimate thing that he is doing, that he's not just saying he's doing it, that it's actually something in progress, and that there's an actual legal filing, a legal application that has been put forward so that this is an actual process, motion in process. Okay. So I think it's proper, given that people are being asked again to donate funds. And Bowder making these claims that he has these top people in the Trump administration around him, which I think is plausible, and I have no reason to doubt, but I want verification because I've not seen interviews with these other people, RFK Jr. I haven't seen any acknowledgement from Donald Trump that he is actually going to meet with James Bowder. But the one thing that we were able to verify is that he did indeed meet with Major General Paul Vallely, because he showed us the picture of him with Vallely within the past week, and Vallely signed Bowder's freedom flag, which is the half Canadian, half U.S. flag. Vallely signed it, and then we learned as well that Major Vallely was advising and directing to some degree what was going on at the Freedom Convoy. In my view, that was foreign interference, and it looks like we're getting more U.S. foreign interference in what is going on through James Bowder. And Bowder also indicated in the interview with us that that there was advice coming from many U.S. generals. That's what Bowder said on the interview. Go watch it. It's mind-blowing. It's one of the most eye-opening interviews that we've done. All the information coming from him, not me making it up, his words, his story, and it blew my mind what he was telling us. Anyway, stay with me. We'll come back on the other side.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so here we are. It is now Getting near the top of the hour. I'm just going to check a few things here to see that we're not missing any kind of breaking news tonight. Yeah, still more criticisms leveled at the National Weather Service, Trump administration. I think the actual number of people killed in Texas is actually 79, despite the other reports saying it's 80. I think we are sitting right now at this point at 79, but still many missing people. So we'll try to stay on top of that as the story unfolds over the coming days. Heartbreaking. Oh, Ozzy Osborne. I guess he had his last concert. Yeah. How old is Ozzy Osborne? Any Ozzy Osborne fans out there in Maverick land? Here, let's take a look. I'm not going to run anything from his concert or anything because we're going to get a copyright strike, but we have some photos here. Oops. There we go. Ozzy Osbourne's last stand. Tears in his makeup, shadowed eyes, Osborne, the alien retiring frontman for Black Sabbath, raged against the twilight of the metal gods. Oh, nice green hair. Did anybody see what he was doing? Like, I'm going to check in the chat. He's 79, 78, 79. Dragon says he's 89, 80. Yeah. Well, I think when he came on, when they put him on stage, I think they brought him in a chair. Let me just see if I can find a video of Ozzy Osbourne's last concert here. We won't run the audio, but maybe we'll have some video. Years ago, somebody went to an Ozzy Osbourne concert. This has to be 10, 15 years ago. And then they came in, they said, well, we went, and he's really old, but you just had to give it to him, because he's so old that, it's kind of a joke, but you got to have respect for the guy. What do we have here? Okay, so that's 1981. Let me see. I'm not seeing the video. Maybe I'm not punching in the right keywords. We'll try it this way. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Let's bring it up. Ozzy Osbourne. I was never a huge fan, but there's some songs that I thought that are pretty good. Oops, not that one. This one. This is what we want. This is on Twitter. X, whatever. Yeah, so he's sitting in the chair. I think it might as well have been a wheelchair. I'm going to turn that off so we don't get the copyright strike. So this is back from a distance. Do we get a close-up of any kind? You can see it on the big screen. They have him sitting in a chair for the concert. It's pretty good. I guess it's very theatrical, kind of like Donald Trump. If Donald Trump gave a concert. He's getting ready to sing. And he doesn't. Come on, Ozzy, give us some audio. He just puts his hand up to his ear. The crowd cheers. I can't leave the audio up or we will definitely get a copyright strike. Yeah, old Aussie gives his concert from a chair. It's I guess I'm getting old too. Not that I guess I am. It's a lot of these, iconic performers, at least they're iconic to me. Who else? Like Phil Collins, he's got problems with his hands now. You look at Elton John, and I think he struggles a little bit. Who else? Yeah, Phil Collins is the guy who, you see him on stage now, and he's frail. Yeah, Rod Stewart came out, I think, about a week ago at a concert someplace, and people were mocking him, laughing at him. But I mean, he's up there too. All these guys that I remember, and a lot of the newer performers, because of my age, I don't take notes, so I'm just not up to speed. People mention some of these new stars, and I'm like, who the hell are you talking about? Yeah, CBC Brown still giving her Aussie. Good on him. Yeah, we'd be jamming something in the air tonight. Yep. Yeah. CBC Brown. Crazy Train. Yep. We'd be jamming. Yeah. Those are the days. Music has changed a lot. Sure has. Nothing's been the same since disco. Anyway, thanks for hanging in there tonight with me, guys. Great to have everybody back here, and I'll return tomorrow night. I just have to pick a proper, appropriate extra song for tonight. What should we run? Any requests in the chat from our Maverick Music Library? Maverick and the News Brothers? Any requests? I don't know. Let's just run something. Well, you know what? Since Aussie is all about, the theatrics and the dark side of things, and maybe even the occult and horror stuff, let's just wrap things up tonight with Frankencar, shall we? Okay, that's where we'll go. Frankencar, take us out of here. Give us a ride to the finish line. Shall you? Okay. Here we go. Maverick and the News Brothers, Frankencar. See you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Out of the junkyard, piece by piece, welded together, can't find no peace. Hood from a Chevy, tail from a Ford, rising like a demon that you can't ignore. Chrome from the past, rust in its veins, blowing off racks, now it's going insane. Wheels spin wild, headlights gleam, it's alive, it's a twisted metal dream. When the lightning strikes and the engines roar, you know it's coming back for more. A beast of bolts with a heart of steel. Frankencar, you're too real. Frankencar, turn through the night, stitched together, ready for the
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.